Pitbull Cruz, Isaac Pitbull Cruz, fought Lamont Roach. Lamont, you dummy. If you're old, you'll know where that came from. No disrespect to Lamont Roach, but anyway, it's my Fred Sanford impression. But look, this fight I thought was an exciting fight. Okay, at the end of the fight, and by the way, we had Roach go down to the canvas in the third round. He got up, but it was the first time he was ever down. He was definitely hurt. His glove touched the ground, and he kind of stayed up, but the referee caught it. At the end of the fight, the way the judges scored it, basically it was a draw. Okay, 115, 111 for Cruz, and the other two judges had it 113 to 113. Now, keep in mind, the one judge had it 115, 111 for Pitbull Cruz. The records now, Cruz 28-3 with a couple of draws and 18 knockouts. Roach also has a couple of draws. He's now 25-1 with 3 draws, and 10 of his wins coming by knockout. Now, here's the thing. All I have heard was crying and bitching and moaning from Lamont Roach and his team. Now, remember, if you watch this fight, okay, and let me be honest, I would refuse to pay for a PBC fight card. I will never do it again. They're all like this. It's smoke and mirrors, and it ends up being a bullshit card. All right. And how did I watch the fight? Well, you know what? I watched it on a stream. Let's just say that. Okay. And but I did watch it, but I refused to pay. I'm not paying anything for the PBC. I'm sorry. I'm being honest about it. The PBC is it's a shim sham scam, okay? The whole organization. But as far as this fight goes, after the fight, Lamont Roach, they were both disappointed that they got a draw, but you didn't hear much complaining from Lamont Roach. It wasn't until afterwards, the next day, he starts complaining that he was robbed. Then Robert Diaz gets in front of a mic, and he starts telling everybody, oh, it was a robbery. It was a robbery. Judges, blah, blah, blah. Next time we have a fight, it's going to be in Roach's hometown, blah, 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 blah. This is what you expect. Listen, boys and girls, my thought is this. If you're not going to fight to win, which means go for the knockdown or be aggressive during the whole fight. If you're not going to fight to win, don't cry about the scorecards. I mean, you can't do it. You can't expect. Look, one of the best things that I've ever seen, and they did it once, I believe, and never again, was when ESPN put little cameras on top of the judges' heads, and they went and showed you a replay of different punches, landing, a knockdown, and all of this stuff from each viewpoint of the judges. And you could see why the 3 judges at times score fights slightly different because of their viewpoint. Some fighters, and I've said this many times on the show, and some of the people in the chat room, like my man Coach, who's in the chat room right now, they'll back me up on this. Some fighters like to fight certain areas of the ring. Let's just, for argument's sake, say fighter A likes to fight near the red corner or that part of the ring. So he's going to try to bring the fight to that side of the ring more often, okay? So the judge that's sitting furthest away from that may not see the hit, the punch landing or whatever. That's why I'm so anti-punch stats during the fight. A lot of these commentators, which is another reason I'll never watch PBC, is that Ronaldo. I can't stand someone that is yelling and screaming at me during a fight and won't shut up for 1 second of the fight, whether it's happening or whether it's in between rounds. Or, I mean, look, it's very disheartening to have to be told what I'm trying to watch on my own. If it was maybe if they want to show the replay and comment on that, but you look, you got to call the action what's happening in front of you, not "Mamma mia!" Every time he does it. But anyway, the truth of the matter is, if you're not going to fight to win, and in my opinion, fighting to win is going for a knockout. I mean, listen, that's the basis of the sport of boxing, right? Render your opponent unconscious, right? I mean, that's the way it is supposed to be, you know. So, if you're going to pussyfoot around and pitter patter and try and steal rounds, then cry foul at the end, yeah, in my opinion, you don't have a leg to stand on. You gotta, look, it reminds me when Floyd Mayweather fought Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar De La Hoya was winning on most of the scorecards. And then Nacho Bernstein in the corner says, listen, don't worry about it. We got this fight in the bag. You can coast the last few rounds, which he did, Oscar. And he ended up losing a close decision. You can't do it. If you don't want to complain about how the judges score a card, don't let the judges give the outcome. Let the scorecards be in your right or your left, like Sam Langford said. I mean, the truth of the matter is go in there to win. Fight to win. I had somebody comment. I made a comment about that, and somebody on social media commented, "Well, it's a lot easier for." I think it was on YouTube comment. It's a lot easier for you to say that while you're sitting behind a computer. Listen, first of all, I've boxed, not at the professional level or let alone a championship level. So I know what it's like to get hit, and I know what it's like to fight. Okay, but the truth of the matter is you just cannot assume that that you're winning a fight because of some reasons, like I just said earlier, like the judges. The judges may be seeing a different viewpoint. They might not see a punch that landed flush. They might have thought it grazed. That's one of the things about boxing that makes the punch stats so useless, in my opinion. The punch stats are subjective. Why are they subjective? Because you have human beings scoring the fight. So that's the same scenario as the judges. If one of the guys that's generally they have, in some cases, they have one guy doing it all, but generally in the best situation, they have one guy working the red corner, one guy working the blue corner, and they're scoring punches. They're saying, oh, this punch landed, this was a power punch, this was a jab, and they keep track of it. Okay. Subjective, boys and girls. How many times have I said where me and you and some other guy could be watching the same fight, sitting in the same area, and we see a punch, and I say, wow, that was a great punch. The next guy says, he blocked a lot of that punch. It grazed him. And the third person could say, I didn't even think it hit him. So there are three people watching the same fight, same punch, three different opinions. It's called subjective. And you can't be taking the statistics that are being calculated from a subjective manner and then call it like it's stats. Okay. Baseball and football, the statistics for baseball and football are cut and dry. You're a running back. You get the ball 10 times. You gain a total of 50 yards. You're averaging 5 yards a carry. You're a baseball player. You get up to bat 10 times. You get a hit 5 times. You're batting 500. It's the statistics. It's cut and dry. Boxing's not like that. Now, if you want to talk about the punch stats after a fight as a conversation piece, I'm all for it. But a lot of these announcers, they'll be talking about the punch stats during the fight and trying to convince you, the viewer, who's winning based on the punch stats. And I can't stand it because the punch stats are subjective. The only way to make punch stats statistics, in my opinion, would be to go back and watch a fight punch by punch, frame by frame, and record it. Then produce the statistics. It obviously couldn't be done live because, it's the action is too fast, and you could do it. Or there's another way too. And that's when you remove the human element. And when they have it, and I've heard it, my man, Coach Dave, told me that they already have it out with gloves that have a sending unit and there's receiving units on the fighter. Now, I think that once somebody invents a receiving like Vaseline or a gel that you can smear all over the body, and then you have a sending unit in the glove, and you land a body shot, and it can score. Maybe I'm getting crazy, but maybe the program, the computer can determine if it was a power shot or not. Once the human element is taken out of it, then it can be punch stats, in my opinion, because it's statistics. It's based on what's happening, not somebody's subjective opinion. So all these fighters and listen, Lamont Roach isn't the first one. There's been a lot of fighters that constantly complain about the scoring. He was robbed, and fans too. I've seen posts on social media about this fight. Roach was robbed. He was robbed. How the hell can you be robbed when you get a score of 113 twice? And I saw the scorecards, and I got news for you. I agree with the scorecards. I can't. I really can't see the argument. And for Robert Diaz to come out and say it, I mean, this is a guy who's knowledgeable, who has a ton of talented fighters in his stable, and he's buying into this robbery bullshit. It wasn't a robbery. It was not. It's the same thing when a fighter loses a fight 115, 113. Okay, that's a 1 round difference. I mean, if it was 6-6, it would be 114, 114, right? I mean, so, you can't cry robbery if it's a 1 round difference. That means you didn't do enough, convincingly to win the rounds. How many of these fighters today pull the Sugar Ray Leonard deal where they try to come on strong for the last minute, last minute of the fight? Coaches in here saying in the Fury Usyk rematch, the human judges scored the fight 116-112 for Usyk, and AI scored the fight 118-112 for Usyk. That's a non-bias. How many times? We gave him a what do they call it? Basically a round. It was close, so we gave it to the other side. Steve Farhood told me one time that the best way that he tells people to score a fight, and Steve Farhood is one of the most accurate scorers today. He says you break the fight down in minutes. So you got a 3-minute round. Break the round down in 3 parts each minute, and that's how he does it. So because it's very easy. The last minute is the most fresh in your mind. So hey, he landed all those shots. He won the round. Yeah, but what about the first 2 minutes? What about the first 2 minutes when he was running around trying to, cover up and avoid the punches, and he was getting battered around. So listen, we have 3-minute rounds. It's a whole round that you're judging, not just the end or not just the beginning for that matter. You're judging the whole round. And then the other thing is, the old, who would you rather be at the end of the fight? No. Listen, how many times have you scored a fight? And here's where the punch stats fail you, because you could be winning. You could have more punches thrown and more punches landed because of your activity in a handful of rounds, and where you outworked your opponent in a couple of those rounds that jack up those punch stats. Again, subjective, but I'm still saying, I'm trying to give you reasons why they look like that. So look, to all the fighters out there that cry and bitch and moan after a fight that they was robbed, fight to win. Go in for the knockout. If you're afraid to go in for the knockout because you don't want to get hit, or you don't want to end up on the canvas yourself, then maybe you shouldn't be boxing. Just because Floyd ran and cherry-picked his opponents, and he was very financially successful for that, plus he was successful in brainwashing a whole generation thinking that he's so great because he was 50-0. That's not the way it is. And if boxing, which I doubt it will ever get back to the way it was, but if there was a slim chance that it could, the first thing is that the fighters have to fight to win. They have to fight to win. And if they don't fight to win, then they can't complain about the scorecards. That's my opinion. If you're going to fight and hope that you win, or if you're listening to remember, most of the trainers today are rah-rah men anyway. They don't tell, I get so frustrated when I hear, when you have a mic in a corner, right? And you hear the corner allegedly giving their fighter some instructions in between rounds. How many times do you actually hear constructive criticism or some constructive adjustments that the fighter needs to make from the trainer? There are some trainers that do that. I'll tell you, Andy Lee is one of them. There's several that don't get the credit that they deserve. But there's a lot of rah-rah men out there, that say, oh, you won that, oh, this and that, oh, no. And the fighter believes it. It's like believing their own press clippings. Listen, you're not doing your fighter any favors by patting him on the back, telling him how great he's doing if he's just surviving around. If you guys are old enough to remember Mike Tyson when he fought James Bone Crusher Smith, all right, at the end of the fight, it was a boring fight. Boring. And at the end of the fight, everybody was criticizing James Bone Crusher Smith. And he says, "Do you ever want to survive?" In the post fight conference, he's going, "Did you ever want to survive? Did you ever just want to survive?" So at least he was being honest that his goal wasn't even to win; it was to just go 12 rounds with Mike Tyson. And I can't help but think that there's a lot of fighters out there today that go into a fight thinking the same way, or even worse, being misled by their corner, telling them how great they're doing when they're not. So, look, like I said, you want to win a fight, get in the fight and fight to win. Don't fight to survive and don't fight to go the distance. Fight to win the fight, take it out of the judge's hands, and you won't be crying the blues the next day. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.